You getting a 7,000 retirement check every month, but still waking up on a cold, old mattress on the floor. Sounds impossible, right? Well, that was my reality. Until the day my daughter uncovered the shocking truth about where my money was really going. What she did next changed everything, and you'll want to see every second of it. Don't blink, because the real twist is just around the corner. So there I was, snuggled up with my favorite, and let's be honest, only pillow, drifting somewhere between a dream about a beach vacation and the reality of my creaky old back. The mattress beneath me was so thin and lumpy, I could practically feel every knot in the wooden floorboards. I'd gotten used to it, though. After all, when you've spent most of your life putting everyone else first, you learn to make do. But that morning, as the sun peeked through the faded curtains and the house was still quiet, I felt a rare sense of peace. I was just about to drift back to sleep when I heard the front door slam with a force that rattled the picture frames on the wall. Now, let me tell you, nothing gets your heart racing faster than the sound of your front door slamming unexpectedly, especially when you live alone. My mind raced through a dozen possibilities in a split second. Was it a burglar, the neighbor's kid again, or maybe the wind? But before I could even sit up, I heard the unmistakable sound of high heels clicking across the linoleum in the hallway. Only one person in my life wore heels before noon, my daughter Harper. She burst into my bedroom like a tornado, eyes wide as saucers, her mouth already halfway open in shock. She stopped dead in her tracks, taking in the scene her mother, Marlene, lying on an old, faded mattress on the floor, wrapped in a threadbare blanket, hair sticking out in every direction. I must have looked like a cross between a college freshman and a character from a Dickens novel. Wubba Badi, she blurted out, her voice a mix of concern and disbelief. You get a 7,000 retirement check every month? Are you hiding it under the mattress for safekeeping? I tried to laugh it off, hoping to lighten the mood. Well, you know me, Harper. Always prepared for a rainy day. Maybe I'm just practicing for my next camping trip. I gave her my best attempt at a wink, but I could tell she wasn't buying it. Her eyes narrowed, scanning the room for any sign of a real bed, or at least a box spring. There was nothing. Just me, my sad little mattress, and a nightstand that had seen better days. The truth was I hadn't planned on things turning out this way. When I retired, I thought I'd finally have time to enjoy life, maybe travel a little, spoil myself with a few luxuries. But somehow, between helping out my son and his family, paying off old debts, and a few unexpected medical bills, my plans had quietly slipped away. I'd convinced myself that I didn't need much, just a roof over my head and a good book to read. But seeing the look on Harper's face made me realize how far I'd let things slide. She walked over and sat down beside me, the mattress groaning under the extra weight. Mom, seriously, what's going on? Why are you sleeping on the floor? Where's all your money going? I hesitated, not wanting to worry her. Harper had her own life, her own stresses. She didn't need to be burdened with my problems. Oh, you know how it is, I said, waving my hand dismissively. Beds are overrated. Besides, it's good for my back. Or so I've heard. She wasn't amused. Mom, this isn't funny. You worked your whole life. You deserve better than this. I mean, come on, you're not a college student anymore. You're 62. You should be living it up, not this. She gestured around the room, her frustration clear. I felt a flush of embarrassment creep up my cheeks. She was right, of course. I did deserve better. But somewhere along the way, I'd forgotten how to put myself first. I'd gotten so used to making sacrifices for everyone else that I didn't even notice when my own needs fell by the wayside. And now, here I was, being called out by my own daughter. Before I could muster up a response, we were interrupted by the sound of another set of footsteps in the hallway. This time, slower, more deliberate. The air in the room seemed to shift, growing heavier with each step. I knew that walk. It was my daughter-in-law, Brittany. She had a way of making her presence known, even before she said a word. Brittany appeared in the doorway, arms crossed, lips pursed in that way that always made me feel like I was back in high school, about to be scolded by the principal. She took one look at Harper, then at me, and let out a dramatic sigh. Oh, Harper, don't get yourself worked up, she said, her tone dripping with condescension. I decide how she spends her money. It's all taken care of. Harper's head snapped around so fast I thought she might get whiplash. Excuse me, she said, her voice icy. Since when do you decide what my mother does with her own money? Brittany shrugged, as if the answer was obvious. Well, someone has to make sure she doesn't waste it. You know how she is, always giving things away, always helping everyone else. I'm just making sure she doesn't end up broke. I could feel the tension in the room rising, like a pot about to boil over. Harper looked at me, her eyes searching for answers. I looked away, suddenly fascinated by a spot on the wall. I didn't want to admit how much control Brittany had taken over my finances, or how I'd let it happen. It was easier to just go along with things to avoid conflict. But now, with Harper here, I realized how much I'd given up. For a moment, no one said anything. The silence was thick, uncomfortable. I could see the wheels turning in Harper's head, her jaw set in determination. She wasn't going to let this go. Not this time. And that's when I knew things were about to change. I just didn't know how much. If you've ever had someone waltz into your life and act like they own the place, you'll know exactly how I felt that morning. There I was, still trying to process the look of shock on Harper's face, when Brittany, my daughter-in-law, made her grand entrance. Purse swinging, sunglasses perched on her head like a crown, and an attitude that could curdle fresh milk. She didn't even bother to knock. She just breezed in, as if she were the star of her own show, and the rest of us were just extras. I swear, if there'd been a camera crew following her, I wouldn't have been surprised. She had that reality TV energy, the kind that makes you want to hide the good china and double-check your bank statements. Brittany stopped in the doorway, took in the scene, me on the floor, Harper looking like she was about to call in a rescue team, and let out a sigh so dramatic it could have won an Oscar. "I decide how she spends her money," she announced, as if she were the CEO of my retirement fund and we were all just lucky to be in her presence. I half expected her to pull out a clipboard and start taking notes. Now, I don't know about you, but I suddenly felt like I was in one of those reality TV shows, except there was no cash prize, just a lot of awkward silence and the sinking realization that my life had somehow become a spectator sport. Harper's jaw dropped. Mine did too, but I tried to play it cool, smoothing my hair and sitting up a little straighter on my sad little mattress. I wanted to say something witty, something that would put Brittany in her place, but the words just wouldn't come. Instead, I sat there, feeling about 2 inches tall, while Brittany surveyed the room like a queen inspecting her kingdom. Harper, bless her, was the first to recover. She stood up, hands on her hips, and fixed Brittany with a glare that could have melted steel. "Excuse me," she said, her voice icy. "Since when do you decide what my mother does with her own money?" Brittany didn't even flinch. She just shrugged, as if the answer was obvious. "Well, someone has to make sure she doesn't waste it. You know how she is. Always giving things away, always helping everyone else. I'm just making sure she doesn't end up broke." I could feel the tension in the room rising, thick and heavy like a summer thunderstorm. Harper looked at me, her eyes searching for answers, but I couldn't meet her gaze. I was too embarrassed, too ashamed to admit how much control Brittany had taken over my finances. It had started innocently enough. A little help with online banking here, a suggestion about budgeting there. But before I knew it, she was managing my bills, monitoring my spending, and making decisions about what I could and couldn't buy. At first, I told myself it was just easier to let her handle things. She was good with numbers, after all, and I'd never been one for spreadsheets. But somewhere along the way, I'd lost track of where ended and control began. Brittany, meanwhile, was just getting started. She launched into a speech about responsible spending and protecting family assets, using words like fiduciary duty and long-term planning, as if she were auditioning for a role on a financial news network. Harper listened for about 30 seconds before she cut her off. "Brittany, with all due respect, this is my mother's money. She worked for it. She earned it. And she gets to decide how she spends it. Not you." Brittany rolled her eyes, clearly unimpressed. "Harper, you don't understand. Your mother is too generous for her own good. If I didn't step in, she'd give away everything she has. I'm just trying to protect her. Protect me." I wanted to laugh, or maybe cry. I wasn't sure which. The truth was, I had always been generous, sometimes to a fault. I'd helped my kids when they needed it, donated to charities, even lent money to friends who never paid me back. But I'd never thought of myself as irresponsible. I just believed in helping people. Was that so wrong? Harper wasn't having it. She took a deep breath, her hands clenched into fists at her sides. "Brittany, I appreciate your concern, but you're not her guardian. You don't get to make these decisions for her. If Mom wants to buy a new bed, or take a trip, or even splurge on something silly, that's her right. She's not a child." Brittany's lips tightened into a thin line. "Well, someone has to be the adult around here." That stung. I felt my cheeks flush with anger and humiliation. Was that how she saw me? As a child who couldn't be trusted with her own money? I wanted to speak up, to defend myself, but the words caught in my throat. I'd spent so many years putting everyone else first, smoothing over conflicts, avoiding confrontation. It was easier to just go along to keep the peace. But now, with Harper standing up for me, I realized how much I'd given up. The room was silent for a moment, the air thick with unspoken words. I could see the hurt in Harper's eyes, the frustration in Brittany's posture, and the uncertainty in my own reflection in the dusty mirror across the room. I felt like I was standing at a crossroads, unsure which way to turn. Finally, Harper broke the silence. She turned to me, her voice gentle but firm. "Mom, do you want Brittany managing your money? Is that what you really want?" I hesitated, the weight of the question pressing down on me. Did I want Brittany in charge, or had I just gotten used to letting someone else make the decisions? I looked at Harper, at the concern and love in her eyes, and I knew the answer. "No," I said quietly. "I don't." Brittany's eyes widened in surprise, but Harper just smiled, a look of relief washing over her face. Then it's time to take back control, Mom. You deserve better than this. For the first time in a long time, I felt a spark of hope. Maybe things could change. Maybe I could stand up for myself, with a little help from my daughter. As Brittany huffed and stormed out of the room, purse swinging and heels clicking, I realized that this was my wake-up call. I didn't have to let anyone else run my life. Not anymore. And as Harper sat down beside me, taking my hand in hers, I knew that together we could face whatever came next. The daughter-in-law dilemma was just the beginning. The real challenge was learning to put myself first, to reclaim my independence, and to remember that it's never too late to start living life on my own terms. If you've ever seen a mother bear protecting her cub, you'll have some idea of what happened next. Harper, my sweet, even-tempered daughter who usually avoids confrontation like the plague, suddenly transformed before my eyes. She rolled up her sleeves, literally, as if she was about to clean the whole house or wrestle a bear, and squared her shoulders. There was a fire in her eyes I hadn't seen since she was a teenager, and caught her brother sneaking out past curfew. She marched right up to Brittany, who was still standing in the hallway with her purse clutched to her chest like a shield, and said, "Not today, not my mom, not ever." I nearly spit out my tea. I'd never seen Harper so fired up. For a split second, I wondered if I should step in, but then I realized this was exactly what I needed. Someone in my corner, someone willing to fight for me when I'd forgotten how to fight for myself. Harper didn't hesitate. She started firing off questions at Brittany, her voice calm but steely. Where are the receipts for Mom's expenses? How much is left in her checking account? What bills have you paid, and when? I want to see every transaction for the last 6 months. Brittany's mouth opened and closed like a fish out of water. She was used to being in control, used to everyone just nodding along with her plans. But Harper wasn't having it. She pulled out her phone, opened the banking app, and started scrolling through my statements right there in the hallway. It was like watching a detective at work, except the only thing missing was the trench coat and magnifying glass. Harper's fingers flew across the screen as she cross-referenced dates and amounts, her brow furrowed in concentration. Brittany tried to regain her composure, but it was clear she was rattled. "Harper, I don't think this is necessary. Your mother trusts me to handle things. I've been doing it for months." Harper didn't even look up. "Well, now I'm here. And I want to see for myself. If you've been doing everything above board, you shouldn't have anything to hide." I watched, a mix of pride and anxiety swirling in my chest. Part of me wanted to crawl under the mattress and hide, but another part, the part that had been quietly screaming for help, felt a surge of hope. Maybe, just maybe, things were about to change. Brittany tried to deflect. "You don't understand how complicated it is. There are bills, insurance, taxes." Harper cut her off. "I work in finance, Brittany. I know exactly how complicated it is. Now, show me the paperwork." For the first time ever, Brittany was speechless. She stood there, her face flushing red, her mouth opening and closing as she searched for a comeback. But Harper wasn't giving her an inch. She started reading off transactions, asking about every withdrawal, every check, every automatic payment. "What's this $300 to Home Goods last month? And why is there a $500 transfer to your account, Brittany?" Brittany stammered. "That was for groceries and some things for the house. Your mother said it was fine." Harper raised an eyebrow. "Did she? Or did you just tell her it was necessary? Because from what I can see, there's a lot of money going out, but not a lot of explanation." I could see Brittany's confidence crumbling. She tried to muster some authority, but Harper was relentless. "If you can't provide receipts and a clear explanation for every expense, I'm going to recommend Mom freeze her accounts until we get this sorted out. And if I find anything suspicious, I won't hesitate to call a lawyer." Now I know Harper can be tough when she needs to be, but I'd never seen her like this. She was a force of nature, and Brittany was no match. The hallway, which had felt so small and claustrophobic just moments before, now felt like a courtroom, with Harper as the prosecutor and Brittany as the defendant. I almost felt sorry for Brittany, almost. Brittany finally broke. "Fine. If you want to take over, be my guest. I was only trying to help. But don't come crying to me when things get overwhelming." Harper didn't flinch. "I'll take my chances. But from now on, Mom's finances are her business. If she wants help, she'll ask for it. Otherwise, you're done." Brittany huffed, grabbed her purse, and stormed out of the house, her heels clicking angrily on the tile. The door slammed behind her, and the silence that followed was deafening. For a moment, neither Harper nor I said a word. I just sat there, stunned, as the reality of what had just happened sank in. Harper finally turned to me, her expression softening. "Are you okay, Mom?" I nodded, though my hands were shaking. "I think so. I didn't realize how much control she had taken. I thought I was being practical, letting her help. But I guess I let it go too far." Harper sat down beside me, taking my hand in hers. "It's easy to do. Mom, you've always been so giving, so trusting. But you deserve to have a say in your own life. You worked hard for that money. You should be the one to decide how it's spent." I felt tears prick at the corners of my eyes, a mix of relief and gratitude. "Thank you, Harper. I don't know what I would have done without you." She smiled, squeezing my hand. "That's what family is for. We look out for each other. And from now on, we're going to make sure you're taken care of, the way you deserve." We spent the next hour going through my accounts, making a list of what needed to be paid, what could be cut back, and what I could finally spend on myself. Harper even helped me set up a new budget, one that included a little extra for things I'd been putting off for years: a new bed, a weekend getaway, maybe even that beach vacation I'd always dreamed about. As the afternoon sun streamed through the window, I felt a weight lift off my shoulders. For the first time in a long time, I felt in control of my own life. I realized that it wasn't too late to start putting myself first, to reclaim my independence and my happiness. And as Harper and I laughed over old memories and made plans for the future, I knew that the showdown with Brittany was just the beginning. With my daughter by my side, I was ready to face whatever came next, on my own terms. By the time the sun began to dip behind the neighbor's maple tree, the house felt lighter, as if a heavy curtain had finally been pulled back to let in the fresh air. Harper, true to her word and her stubborn streak, had already made a list, checked it twice, and dragged me out to the nearest furniture store. I tried to protest. "Harper, I'm fine, really, I don't need anything fancy." But she just gave me that look, the one that says, "Mom, don't even try." Before I knew it, we were standing in front of a row of beds that looked like they belonged in a 5-star hotel, not in my little house with its creaky floors and mismatched curtains. Harper was on a mission. She bounced on mattresses, checked the tags, and even negotiated with the sales guy like she was haggling at a flea market. I stood there, feeling a little out of place, but also a little giddy. When was the last time I'd bought something just for me? When was the last time I'd let myself want something, without worrying about everyone else first? I couldn't remember. It felt strange, but also wonderful. We finally settled on a bed with real springs, a sturdy headboard, and a mattress so thick I thought I might need a step stool to climb into it. Harper insisted on the best sheets too, soft, cool, and in a cheerful blue that made the whole room feel brighter. As the delivery guys set everything up, Harper flitted around, fluffing pillows and tucking in corners, humming to herself. I watched her, my heart swelling with gratitude and a little bit of awe. This was my daughter, the same girl who used to beg for bedtime stories and sneak cookies from the jar, now taking charge, making sure her mother was finally taken care of. When the bed was ready, Harper stood back and admired her handiwork. "There," she said, hands on her hips. "Now you have a real bed. No more sleeping on the floor like a college kid. Promise me you'll take better care of yourself, Mom. Promise me you won't let anyone else control your happiness again." I looked at her, at the determination in her eyes, and I felt something shift inside me. For so long, I'd let life just happen to me. I'd let other people's needs and opinions shape my days, my choices, even my sense of self-worth. But now, with Harper standing there, I realized I had a choice. I could choose to put myself first, to set boundaries, to say no when I needed to. I could choose happiness, not just for everyone else, but for me, too. "I promise," I said, my voice a little shaky. "I promise I'll try." Harper smiled, and for a moment I saw the little girl she used to be, peeking out from behind the grown woman she'd become. "That's all I ask, Mom. Just try. You deserve it." We laughed, we cried, because, let's be honest, that's what mothers and daughters do best. And then, because neither of us felt like cooking, not the cheap kind either, we went all out: extra cheese, pepperoni, mushrooms, the works. We ate on the living room floor, surrounded by cardboard boxes and the smell of new sheets, and talked about everything and nothing. We reminisced about old family vacations, about the time Harper tried to give the cat a bath, about the silly things that used to seem so important but now just made us laugh. As the evening wore on, I felt a sense of peace settle over me. It wasn't just the new bed or the pizza, or even the fact that Brittany was nowhere in sight. It was the realization that I wasn't alone, that I had someone in my corner, someone who loved me enough to fight for me when I couldn't fight for myself. It was a feeling I hadn't had in a long time, and I savored it like the last slice of pizza. Later that night, after Harper had gone home and the house was quiet again, I climbed into my new bed. The mattress was firm but soft, the sheets cool against my skin. I lay there, staring up at the ceiling, and let myself breathe, really breathe. For the first time in years, I didn't feel anxious or worried or weighed down by other people's expectations. I felt free. As I drifted off to sleep, I thought about everything that had happened. The shock of Harper finding me on that old mattress, the confrontation with Brittany, the way Harper had swooped in and taken charge. It had been a whirlwind, a little bit of drama I never would have chosen for myself. But sometimes I realized it takes a little drama to remind you who's really in your corner. Sometimes, it takes a wake-up call to see how far you've let things slide, and how much you deserve to take up space in your own life. I thought about all the women I knew, friends, neighbors, even strangers at the grocery store, who had spent their lives putting everyone else first. How many of them were sleeping on their own version of an old mattress, telling themselves it was good enough? How many of them needed someone to roll up their sleeves and say, not today, not my mom, not ever? So let me ask you, who's in your corner? Who's the person who would fight for you, who would stand up and say, you deserve better? And maybe more importantly, when was the last time you stood up for yourself? When was the last time you said, I matter too? As I lay there, wrapped in soft sheets and the warmth of my daughter's love, I made a promise to myself. I would take better care of me. I would ask for help when I needed it, and I would say no when I needed to. I would remember that it's never too late to start over, to choose happiness, to reclaim your life. And if you're reading this, maybe it's your turn too. Maybe it's time to roll up your own sleeves, to stand up for yourself, to remember that you're worth fighting for. Because sometimes all it takes is a little drama and a lot of love to turn things around. So, who's in your corner? And when was the last time you stood up for yourself? If you haven't lately, maybe today is the day. If you enjoyed this story, and you want more real-life tales with a dash of humor and a whole lot of heart, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Because life after 50 is just getting interesting. And trust me, you don't want to miss what happens next.